Hi friends, welcome back to Faith and Arrow Homestead. My name is Jaylee and today we are in the kitchen. It is a brisk fall day. It's kind of nice out though. It's 55 degrees, so I'm forcing myself to enjoy it. I have all the windows open, so that's why I'm dressed for fall. Today we are going to take advantage of this fall weather and we're going to make some chili. Now this recipe will be up on my website. I came up with this. I always feel so hesitant to say that because I kind of think pretty much everything has been invented at this point, but this isn't anybody's recipe that I've seen. I just kind of made it up. So that's why I say that. I'm calling it hidden bean chili because we are hiding the beans in this chili. I don't, and Tom and I both don't really like beans in our chili. We also don't like chunky tomatoes in our chili. So we're going to be dealing with both of those things in this recipe. So if you can relate to that, this is the perfect chili recipe for you. And even if you can't, you can skip the step that I'm going to show you for that, for hiding the beans and the tomatoes, and still end up with a really delicious chili. So let's go ahead and get started. First, let's talk about ingredients. So here I've got some ground beef. Ground beef is what I can afford right now, but you can certainly put any kind of different meat that you want in chili. Lots of people use venison. You can use like brisket. You could do chuck roast. There's all sorts of different kinds of meat you could put into a chili. So you do whatever you want to do with that. We're going to do ground chili today. Here I've got 2 onions diced. I've got 5 cloves of garlic minced. You're going to want 2 bell peppers. Luckily, because the garden's done, I have a few in the deep freezer already chopped up. I think, if I remember correctly, I think I might have 3 or 4 bell peppers in here, so we probably won't use all of this. I've got a big can of crushed tomatoes, oregano, chili powder and cumin, some tomato paste, some masa harina. I hope that's how you pronounce that. This is another secret ingredient. I did not come up with this. I have seen this in other chili recipes, but I love putting masa harina in my chili. So we're going to do that. I've got home canned black beans and home canned beef broth. I need to grab another one of these. You need 4 cups, so I need 2 of these. And then some brown sugar. Also, the recipe online is going to tell you jalapenos, but I actually don't have any jalapenos right now, so I am substituting a garden salsa pepper that I still have that hasn't gone bad yet. And I probably should do 2 of these, but I'm actually making this chili for a dinner party that we're having tomorrow, and I don't want it to be too spicy, so I'm just going to do 1 of these because they're pretty spicy. So I'm going to get this chopped up really quick, and then we're actually going to head over to the stove. All right, you guys, we're going to start by turning this pot onto medium. You need just any kind of like heavy bottom pot. This is one of my stainless steel pots. Actually, fun fact for you, I was Googling this pot today because I wanted to know like how much of it was aluminum. I wanted to know what it was made out of. So I looked on the bottom and I Googled it. This is Revere ware. It's actually made in Rome, New York. I Googled it because there's a number on the bottom of this, and I think that number correlates to like what percentage some of the metals are, and it came up. This pot is actually super valuable. They're being sold online for like $180. I was like, what? I don't even remember where I got this. It could have been here when I moved here for all I know. Goodwill? I have no idea where I got this. But anyway, cool. So I have a super nice pot that I'm going to make this chili in. I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of butter to this. You don't have to use butter. You could use an oil, olive oil, whatever you want to use. I just love sauteing veggies in butter. I think the flavor is really the best that way. And as you can hear, that's already really nice and warm. So we're going to go ahead and add our veggies. You know what? Actually, because my bell pepper's frozen, I think I'm going to add that first. Let that come up to temperature and get sauteing before I add everything else in. I'm glad I waited to add my other veggies, being that these are from the freezer. When they warmed up, they released a ton of liquid. So I'm actually going to drain some of that off because it's not going to allow the other veggies to saute. Oh yeah, that sounds and looks much better. Sauteing peppers from the freezer is like popping popcorn. Listen. And then now we're going to go ahead and add in everything else. I'm going to go ahead and add in a little bit of salt and pepper. For recipes that are pretty heavy on the seasoning in other places. I don't usually go real heavy on the salt and pepper. Sometimes I won't even put in any salt and pepper, but I will go ahead and add a little bit now. Up to you if you want to or not. I'll go real light on the pepper. Oh, is there anything better in this world than the smell of onions and pepper and garlic sauteing in some butter on the stove? It's one of my favorite smells. I feel like there are some consistent things that you'll see across various recipes, like some phrases that you will hear repeated a lot, even by different recipe creators. And one of those I'm going to give you right now, and that is when you are sauteing veggies that are going to go inside a dish, that you saute them until the garlic is fragrant and the onions are translucent. I feel like I've seen that on so many recipes. Or they'll say, saute the veggies until they start to soften. So one of those variations will be in my recipe card, but it's true. That is what you're looking for. And we are almost there with these. The next step is to add in your meat. In this case, I have got 2 pounds of ground beef. I'm just going to break this up and get it browning. Now, I personally like to add my seasonings when the meat is almost done, but not quite done yet. And that's what this is. There's a little bit of pink, but it's well on its way. In fact, with the simmering that we have to do with this, I could call it good. So what we're going to do, we've got chili powder, obviously a very important ingredient when you are making chili. My store was out of chili powder, so I have this chipotle powder. Oh, that smells divine. Oh my gosh, I'm excited to use it. And we're going to add 4 tablespoons of this. This chipotle powder has a little bit of a barbecue-y taste, so I do think this is actually going to change the taste of my chili a little bit, but hopefully in a good way, because this is what I've got, so this is what we're doing. Obviously, as you can see by my abysmal measuring, that this does not have to be exact, and it doesn't. We're cooking, we're not baking. So if you have more like 5 tablespoons or more like 3 tablespoons, it's not going to be the end of the world. Let's get that mixed in first before we move on. Oh, guys, I love chili. Man, oh man, do I love chili. I'm also serving this with sourdough bread and homemade macaroni and cheese. I'm going to make and film the macaroni and cheese tomorrow. And I'll mention in that video as well that these can be made in conjunction. And I like to put a little macaroni and cheese in the bottom of my bowl and then pour the chili over top of the macaroni and cheese and eat it like that. And it's so good. Next, we're going to add some cumin. I'm going to add roughly 2 tablespoons of cumin. And then lastly, we're going to add 1 tablespoon of oregano. Get this all nice and mixed together here. I'm going to turn the heat down to medium-low because we're not really cooking this at this point. We're just giving this time to kind of meld together, let all of those flavors marry in our pot. Oh, does this not already look delicious? I cannot wait to eat this tomorrow. I nearly forgot. We're also going to add 2 tablespoons of just lightly packed brown sugar. I do personally think that the brown sugar is very important. You've got a lot of pepper flavor, you've got the cumin flavor in there, and I think the brown sugar really rounds that out and balances out all of those flavors. You could also do maple syrup. Oh man, that's a good idea. I think next time I make this, I'll do maple syrup instead of brown sugar. I bet that would be delicious. Next up, we're gonna add our beef broth. We're gonna add 4 cups of beef broth. I canned this back in March, I think. I actually think it looks like it needs to be strained, so I'm gonna run it through just a fine mesh strainer here. Oh, look at that. That really needed to be strained. That's funny. Looks good. And then I only add one, so I'm gonna need 2 of these. I just add 1 to start with because I'm gonna use it to deglaze the bottom of the pot. So I'm gonna turn this back up to medium now. And I'm gonna let that liquid get to the bottom, and I'm just gonna run my wooden spoon along the bottom here to try and get up any bits that had stuck to the bottom, any brown bits, because that is flavor and we want as much flavor as we can get. I'm just gonna let this sit for a minute. Okay, I've got all of my broth in there. I'm just letting that come back up to temperature. I'm gonna get this on a nice low simmer. And at this point, I'm going to add my bay leaves. Bay leaves are, of course, optional. I've done lots of cooking in the past without bay leaves before I found my source for them. And so, not necessary, but man, do I love bay leaves. I really love the flavor that they add. And I'm going to get those in there. They can chill out in there while this simmers. I will fish those out at the end, but they're fine in there for now. I'm going to turn this down a little, down to medium-low, let that simmer, and we're going to move back over to the counter. All right, now here's the hidden bean trick. Fun fact for you, these black beans are actually the very first thing I ever pressure canned back in March, and it went really well, obviously. So we're gonna go ahead and use them. Now, chili can be made to suit anybody's tastes. You can do whatever you wanna do to make this how you like it. I only put black beans. I'm really only adding them for the nutrition and as a thickener. And Tom and I do not enjoy eating beans. I don't like how they feel in my mouth. I don't really like beans. I wish I did like them more, but I want them in my chili. And so this is what I do. I've got you could use a food processor, a blender. I don't have a food processor. All I have is my Ninja smoothie maker. And I've done this before in it, and it works out fine, so I know we're good to go. I'm gonna put my beans in here. I'm probably going to do this in 2 batches because this thing's not very big. We also do not like chunky tomato in our chili, so I'm going to add, which I used crushed tomato, and honestly it's not very chunky, but just for the effect of the video, I will show you. And also having it in there helps the beans too. Now that I'm like looking at this and really thinking about this, I do want to like clarify and point out, if you use crushed tomato, if you don't like chunky tomatoes in your chili and you get crushed tomatoes, it really won't be a problem. You don't really have to add them in here with the beans if you don't want to. I'm going to anyway, and I probably even will in the future because I do think having the tomato in there helps the beans, but I just wanted to point that out there, that if you don't want to go through this step and you don't like having chunky tomato chili, then just get crushed tomatoes. I'm just going to pulse this. Now, I'm not looking to like completely pulverize, liquefy this. I do still want it a little chunky, like a little bit, but not a lot. I mostly want the beans broken up. And so what we ended up with here was, you can definitely tell that there are beans in this, but there are not whole beans in this anymore. It's pretty broken up. So I'm gonna go and add this mixture over to the pot. The effect that this has on the chili working as a thickener is just incredible. It is so good, and it gives the chili such an amazing consistency. You're still getting the nutrition of having the beans in there, and you don't have to actually eat the beans. And you can even see here that there are really not any big chunks of bean in there. It's pretty, I mean, it is pretty pureed. I could have pureed it a little bit more, and if you're trying to hide this from like kids, then yeah, by all means, puree it up, baby. But just the few pulses I did there, I think I did like 4 or 5 pulses, give this a really nice texture. And then when you add it into the chili, look at that. That is an amazing chili consistency. I love it. There was just a little bit left in that can of crushed tomato, so I'm going to add that in. We've got a couple more ingredients. We're going to add in a couple teaspoons of tomato paste. And actually at this point, I think I'm going to get my whisk out, especially for this next part, but it'll be helpful too for the tomato paste. I see a couple bay leaves. I'm just going to go ahead and grab them. I could leave them in longer, but I'm going to grab them because I see them. Next up, this is the masa harina that I use. I got it just from the store. I didn't order it special or anything. I'm going to add a cup of this, but here's the thing about this. You have to like really mix well as you're adding it because you don't want it to clump up. And again, this one was not my idea. I did see this in another chili recipe and I tried it. I've made it a couple of times now and it's so good. And I believe it just acts as a thickener. I'm not sure that there's any like really big flavor that comes from it or anything. I think it's just a thickener and maybe a texture enhancer. Kind of adds a little bit of grittiness to it. The next thing that I want you to think about here is the consistency. Now, are you happy with the consistency of your chili? Do you like your chili to be really thick or do you like it a little on the thinner side? This to me is almost perfect, maybe running a little bit on the thin side. I think I like it a little thicker than this. So what I'm gonna do, turn the heat back up to almost medium, maybe not quite medium, and I'm gonna let this simmer for a few minutes and that will cook off some of this liquid and thicken it up for me a little bit and then it will be perfect. If you like your chili a little thinner and it is too thick, you can add a little bit more beef broth, you can add a little bit of water, and just thin it up a little bit. Make sure if you do that you stir it in really well. But while I'm letting this simmer away, we can certainly do a taste test and see if there's anything else that we need to do to this. Woo! She's spicy. Oh no! It is so spicy. Why is that so spicy? Wow. Hello. Maybe it's that chipotle powder instead of chili powder that I ended up with. My mouth is burning. Oh no. Wow. All right. I only added the one spicy pepper. I don't know why this is so spicy. This is a spicy pot of chili. Whew, my nose is running. All right, well, the good news is I'm actually going to, I don't like to double things in recipes because I don't want to confuse anybody with measurements. So I just made one serving of this. This is one serving of this chili, and I need more than this. So I was planning on making a double batch when I'm done filming. So what I'll do is I just won't add, I'll do everything the same. I won't add the pepper, and I won't add the chili powder. And when I combine them, hopefully that will be enough to really bring this down a notch because holy cow, this is spicy. Yeah, I'm gonna let this cook down for a few more minutes. I'm gonna transfer it to another container. I'm gonna make a second round of this and it'll turn out fine. I'm not worried about it at all, but I guess just be real careful when you're making chili. Maybe taste it as you go if you're when you're adding in your spicy items like the chili powder. Taste it a little as you go. Make sure that you're not overdoing it. Or if you like things spicy, overdo it. Go for it. But all in all, I really, really like this chili recipe. It took me years to nail down a chili recipe that I liked. I have made many pots of chili in my day, and I have not enjoyed all of them. I do think that hiding the beans this way really changed it for me because I wanted the beans to be in there so bad. So I've always added them and then just like forced myself to eat it. And it really like, I didn't enjoy it as much because of that. So having them, they're in here, we're getting the nutrition and they're helping us to thicken it and to help it have this really great chili consistency, but I'm not having to eat whole beans. I'm realizing we don't really like chunky stuff that much. But yeah, I hope that you give this a try. If you have any questions or if there are any alterations that you would make, leave that down in the comments for me. All right, guys, thanks so much for hanging out with me today. Well, I showed you how to make chili the way that I like to make it. I hope this was helpful for you. I can't wait to see you in my next video. Have faith, my friends, and keep moving forward. Bye.